Don't you know that you so wrong, man? You're wrong and here's why. Chris and Greg don't see eye to eye, like none of the time. Robert Covington stinks. I don't care what you think. How is LeBron James the king when he's ruining teams? You're wrong and here's why. Underdog Sports presents. You're wrong and here's why. Underdog Sports presents. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Welcome to this week's episode of You're Wrong and Here's Why. I'm Chris Horwedel, joined as always by Greg Crone. And Gregory, this week we're going to talk about why Jimmy Garoppolo is primed for a terrible 2019, why Boogie Cousins' injury is going to cost the Lakers a shot at the home court in the playoffs, and why despite its lack of star power, the U.S. is still going to win the gold medal in the FIBA World Cup. All of these topics from last week and still hold up, so that works out nicely. We had a little hiccup as Greg was going to die, and but all's well now. All's well.
Yeah, very interesting night of allergic reactions to apparently just my couch. So that was fun.
Did you get the allergy test and it popped for your couch?
Yeah, it specifically just said your couch.
That's weird.
Oh, man. What
did you have to do to the couch?
I don't know. Nothing. It's been fine ever since. But I was sitting on it with the kid, and wife got home, and all of a sudden my eyes swelled up. They got itchy. I had to sit in the bathroom under like the steam of the shower for like 45 minutes to get it to go away. It was not fun. And
you sent me images every step of the way so that I knew you were not making it up.
Had to keep you informed, buddy.
Thank you. Most of those are my screensavers now, but we're going to talk about this stuff. I'm excited about this. Although I do apologize for anyone who follows me from show to show to show, because it does seem like I'm doing nothing but shitting on Jimmy Garoppolo this week. It's
I did see. I've seen the other shows, and it appears that Jimmy is a big topic of concern for you.
Yeah, he's been a topic of conversation because I think this whole thing's interesting. And, again, I want to point out that this topic was set to go up before any of that. So they ended up,
very true.
They ended up being my outlet to talk about Garoppolo. And
you just had to get it out.
Now I'm just
had to get out your hatred.
Just rapping. I don't hate him. I just think he's overrated. Well, okay. Let's
get into it.
Let's get into it. Jimmy Garoppolo going to have a bad 2019 season. I'm confident of this. This guy does not look like the same player who led the 49ers to those 5 straight wins now 2 seasons ago. When I watch him play, I see a guy who is playing afraid to get hurt again. He's not planning. He's not getting the strength on his throws. His ball placement is not what it was. His arm is not what it was. And he just doesn't show the kind of brazen confidence that he had coming into the situation to lead the 49ers to those wins. You know, everyone talks about those, the 5 consecutive interceptions on 5 consecutive throws in practice last week. But let's talk about his game against the Broncos on national television this week, Gregory. Nationally televised preseason affair. 1 of 6 for 0 yards and an interception, and probably should have had a second interception. Guy just doesn't look the same anymore.
I mean, let's be honest. Just because some guys can come back in under 12 months from ACL, repairs,
sure,
doesn't mean everybody should. And that's what I think is Jimmy Garoppolo is kind of running into. I don't think he trusts his knee. It's something that you could say similarly with a guy like Carson Wentz last year. They don't look right because of that. But that's not my argument. My argument here has to do with why he won't have a terrible season.
Okay.
He won't have a terrible season because this is the kind of stuff we should expect from Jimmy Garoppolo. A 5-game miracle run for a guy who's a career backup and nothing more. That's what he should have. He should have these types of numbers. I understand that there's this want to hype a guy up and build him as the franchise saver for the 49ers because he won 5 for the Niners, essentially meaningless draft status ruining games 2 years ago. Garoppolo's not a franchise quarterback. He's just not. We have this conversation from team to team to team about guys you should pay and guys you shouldn't, and good for Garoppolo for getting that cash based off of sitting on the bench and holding a clipboard. But the guy's just not an elite quarterback in this league.
Gregory, what if
wasn't before the injury, isn't now?
Gregory, what if I were to tell you, because I was interested in this, I wanted to see what the national media thought of him. So I went over to Bovada Sportsbook, and they have Jimmy Garoppolo as the favorite at plus 325 to win AP Comeback Player of the Year.
But that's an award that's subjective. I mean, you
have to
really,
be good, though. You have to play well.
Of course, you have to be good, but how good do you really have to be? I couldn't tell you the last 5 AP Comeback Player of the Years. I have to assume that Adrian Peterson is one of them, and that might even be too soon for when he came back from his ACL situation.
I can tell you.
So
I can give you this list right now. Let's talk about it. Last year, Andrew Luck. 2017, Keenan Allen. 2016, Jordy Nelson. 2015, Eric Berry. 2014, Rob Gronkowski. 2013, Phillip Rivers. 2012, Peyton Manning. 2011, Matt Stafford. 2010, MVP runner-up for the Philadelphia Eagles, Michael Vick. 2009, Tom Brady. 2008, the great Chad Pennington. 2007, Greg Ellis. 2006, Chad Pennington the first time. Wow. 2005, Steve Smith. 2005 also Teddy Bruschi. Apparently, I guess there was a co-winner that year.
Yeah, you can't have it. Once you have a stroke and you come back, you kind of almost have to get that.
That's fair. You do earn that. 2004 is Tom Brady. 2003 is John Kitna. 2002, the great Tommy Maddox. 2001, Garrison Hurst. 2000, Joe Johnson. 99, Brian. I'm going to finish here because I'm going to 98 because that's what this list says. 99, Bryant Young. 1998, Doug Flutie.
Tommy Maddox, XFL MVP and champion Tommy Maddox.
Damn right.
But yeah, I mean, of course, Garoppolo's got to be the front runner for that at all the, in Vegas and at Bovada. It's got to be him because he has the most potential story set up already. He's coming off a serious knee injury. I bet if we looked back a year ago at this time, the leader in the clubhouse was probably Carson Wentz. I mean, a lot of those guys you named are guys who had weird injuries and came back the next year and were able to perform back to the same quality. I don't think Garoppolo is ever going to see that success that he saw in that 5-game run. I mean, that run of games is something that is so it was so insignificant at the time. I mean, you're talking about a San Francisco 49ers team that with those 5 wins went 6-10. Who they played in those 5 games, if you take a look at it. Excuse me.
Greg, none of that mattered because it was wildly significant in my household because that propelled the 49ers over the Browns, and the Browns got the number 1 pick, which led to Baker Mayfield. And the end of me having to watch the garbage quarterbacks of the world, ironically like Josh McCown. I like Josh McCown. I just had to say that for the joke.
I mean, you're talking about – that's fine, but you're talking about the teams that he beat here, right? So the 2017 Chicago Bears, 5-11.
Great team.
The 2017 Houston Texans, 4-12.
Dominating performance, underrated roster.
The 2017 Tennessee Titans, 9-7.
Oh my, playoff bound.
They actually made it to the second round of the playoffs with that comeback against the Chiefs that year. The 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars, that's actually a good one, but you're talking about week 16,
big time win
for a team that basically had their division locked up. And 2017 Los Angeles Rams, who also went to the playoffs, but that's a week 17 game where they already had everything sealed.
Stop
and
taking
delivered.
Credit away from Jimmy. What Jimmy and Trent Taylor and those guys did that year was incredible.
He was never good. He was never as good as people made him out to be. So he should have the numbers that he's going to have this year. They actually might be a little bit worse than what we should normally expect from Garoppolo because of the injury. But I never expected this guy to be some sort of superstar. It's all this weird New England Patriots hype. Jimmy G was the second coming. Belichick and Kraft almost fought each other because of the trade. Now they don't speak, and Brady this and Brady that. That's all this ever was. Garoppolo's not a number 1 QB in this league, and the 49ers are going to find out the hard way with this contract and what they've committed to him over the course of the next few years.
Is the, I believe, 8th highest paid quarterback in the NFL this season. And I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Garoppolo should be at the top of the list when you consider that another guy, who falls number 2 on this list, Le'Veon Bell, heck of a football player in his own right. Then you have Devontae Freeman at 3, Darius Geis at 4, Earl Thomas, Cam Newton, Jason Witten, Carson Wentz. Well, okay, some of these aren't in order. I guess technically Carson Wentz would be tied with Darius Geis at plus 1,200, but it's slightly out of order here. Then Cam Newton, then Earl Thomas, Witten, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's going to have a big season. David Johnson, AJ Green, Greg Olsen, Everson Griffin, Hunter Henry, Jerick McKinnon, Marcus Mariota, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Josh Rosen, Travis Frederick. Well,
a lot of options.
Look, I'm happy Travis Frederick is back, because the thing that happened to Travis Frederick goes so far beyond football. And, I think we have to put our own personal biases aside here. And even if he is a Cowboy, Guillain-Barré is a scary thing.
That's one of those things that you kind of look past what uniform the guy's wearing, and you feel more for him as a person.
Yeah. When somebody gets something that would be a rare, I guess, like third act diagnosis on House, then you're worried about him. And I'm glad to see he's back. Keanu O'Neal, Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Deion Jones, Derek Carr, Delaney Walker, Jake Butt, Marquise Lee, Tyler Eifert, and Carl Lawson to round out that list. Where's your money going?
What is that Le'Veon Bell odd? I would love to know.
Plus 450 to Garoppolo's plus 325 at Bovada.
That's almost a guaranteed bet right there. If you're not putting money on Le'Veon Bell to win Comeback Player of the Year at plus 400, you're just handing money away.
Well, I guess you're just kind of keeping your money as is, but
I guess.
But you're not putting it aside and sending it out to go find friends and come home and bring you more money.
Exactly.
You know what I thought was interesting though? I was looking down this list a little bit, and they don't actually project him to play all that well. When you go to he's in kind of the top end, I guess the top half in projected interceptions thrown. He's in the bottom half in projected touchdown passes. He's in the bottom half in projected passing yards. So they don't actually think that highly of him.
I mean, again, that's probably where Jimmy Garoppolo would be normally.
Greg, he was Tom Brady's backup. He's going to be great.
The problem is he's a quarterback, and when a quarterback does flourish, it's overstated in a lot of cases. It's overvalued when they have 4 or 5 good games. It's something that the Jaguars might find out this year with Nick Foles. As much as I do love good old Saint Nick, we've seen him in the starting role before for a team for a real season, and the Jaguars aren't exactly flourishing on the offensive depth chart. But when a QB does perform, he gets treated like he's the next coming of Johnny Unitas, which is what we've seen with Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I tend to think very highly of the Bovada lines, but I am going to question this Coach of the Year thing with Kyle Shanahan being the favorite.
Well, it's because if they have a bounce back year, he's the obvious candidate for it. You know what I mean? And I guess when you're setting the odds, because you're also setting the odds based off media narrative that leads to awards. In most cases, those awards are voted on by the media, who create basically the storylines of the NFL throughout the season. I could see how that would make sense.
Right, and we have to also consider lines are set so that people will bet on them. And
precisely.
And that makes sense here with the Shanahan thing. Kitchens number 2, McVay number 3 tied, and then Reich, Peyton, McVay and Belichick number 3 tied, and then Peyton, Reed, and Reich coming in after that at plus 14. I don't know. I think the 49ers are in for a very rough season with the expectations that they have for Garoppolo versus the reality of what I think they're going to get. I think he's probably going to be an okay starting quarterback. I think he's an above average starting quarterback if all the boxes check. He's healthy, he's confident, but I don't think he's there right now. And I think they're really going to struggle in 2019.
Yeah, I think that them as a whole, they're going to land somewhere in, probably the bottom half of the NFC West, and they'll be above the Cardinals, who I just think are going to be atrocious again this year. Yeah. But I could see them finishing easily behind Seattle and easily behind the Rams, and that's just kind of going to be where they're at. I mean, he's a middle of the road quarterback. I'd put him in the probably 12 to 17 ranking if you want to talk about all the starting quarterbacks in the league.
Interesting. Can I just add to that right now? Mario and I did that on the NFL show last night, and we had 22 starting quarterbacks who we would take over Garoppolo right now.
Yeah, and that actually, as I said, 12-17. I thought maybe I overestimated this, but had to keep going with it. So it doesn't surprise me that you can find that number of people you take over him, especially coming off the injury. I just don't think. I think his value is so high because of the limited times that we've seen him, and you mix that injury in, it's not going to be good for Jimmy or the 49ers.
Right, and I think the thing that really hurts them is that there are expectations for this team this season, warranted or not. If we go down to the worst regular season record, the Dolphins are number one at plus 350. But we have to go all the way down to like the halfway point, basically firmly in the middle. I don't want to add it up right now because some of these are out of order and it'll be a pain in the butt. But I would guess right about halfway through at somewhere in the 15 to 17 range, the San Francisco 49ers at plus 6,000 on Bovada for the worst record next season.
There are always these teams that people have that overestimated hype for, and they end up falling out. The Carolina Panthers are a great example from not last year, but the year after they went to the Super Bowl and lost to Denver. But they were coming off an unbelievable season, a disheartening loss in the Super Bowl, and everybody expected them to come out and repeat that success, and it was a complete mess, and I believe they missed the playoffs. And that's the kind of thing that happens in the NFL. Because, honestly, I mean, outside of a few teams, the Browns being one of them, well, they're the only ones I can really think of off the top of my head. But there's very few teams that go into every season and go, you know what, we're just going to be terrible this year.
Sure.
Every team sort of has that inkling of hope that they're going to make that run, and they've put everything together in the off season. I know I was a delusional Eagles fan for many years prior to the Donovan McNabb era and after the Donovan McNabb era. So I've been there. I've done that. Every year I think we're going to win the Super Bowl. And I think that those teams have that, which leads to the media talking that way, which leads to people thinking that the 49ers are going to win somewhere in like the 8 or 9 to 10 wins window, and I just don't think that's happening.
Been there, done that, got the top 5 draft pick. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Guys, we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of August, and that means football is here. I wanted to let you know that Yahoo Fantasy has introduced a new fantasy football game called Best Ball that lets you in on the action now. So with Best Ball, you draft your fantasy football team, and that's it. You really don't need to do another thing once you've drafted your team. Each week, the top scoring players at each position on your roster are automatically count towards your weekly score. I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, you're going to save a lot of time obsessing over your lineups. Forget about that time commitment with other drafts. There's no waiver wire, there's no trades, no adding or dropping players, no having to make those tough decisions on who to sit or who to start. You get to focus on the best part of fantasy football, the draft. Are you tired of doing mock drafts for your fantasy team and having other players just drop out early or not finish? Well, free best ball leagues give you the most accurate ADP or average draft position of players before the season starts. For you lunatics, you wild fantasy men out there who just can't get enough fantasy football but don't really want to manage all of those teams all season, you can draft up to 50 best ball teams. That is more teams that are actually in the NFL. Play for free or play for cash, but most importantly, get to drafting with Yahoo Fantasy Best Ball. Join a league today at yahoo.com/bestball, BESTBALL, coming soon to the Yahoo Fantasy app. All right, Gregory, we're back. Why don't you tell me why you believe DeMarcus Cousins' injury is going to cost the Los Angeles Lakers a shot at home court in the playoffs?
Let's take a quick peek at the Lakers depth chart here. Boogie Cousins penciled in as the starter. Unfortunate knee injury. Feel bad for Boogie. A lot of bad injury news back to back to back.
Should we preface this with, do you think he plays this year?
I don't think he rushes it back.
Okay, I agree with you.
Based on the fact that, he's 18 months removed from a full-blown Achilles tear. Now you're tacking on an ACL. You might want to just kind of shut it down, big man, so you don't you don't rush back and do some serious permanent damage. Take a year off. you're still getting paid. Someone's going to give you an opportunity. You're not going to make the money that you potentially once expected, but you're still going to be a contributor.
We're on the same
now,
page.
Back to the Lakers. Yeah. JaVale McGee now penciled in as the starter here at center, which is interesting. But I think it seriously hurts the Lakers' chances in the Western Conference. Obviously, the Warriors are going to be way down with all their losses, but they still have Steph. They still have oh my God, I can't believe I can't.
Is his name Draymond Green?
Yes, I was going to say the guy that kicks people. They still have those guys who could potentially contribute. They added an all-star in a ridiculous way from Brooklyn.
D'Angelo Russell?
I am having D'Angelo Russell. There you go. Houston's going to be outstanding again with Russ and
they're a question mark. I refuse to accept anything but that team is a question mark. That is one of the most volatile combinations that have ever taken an NBA court together.
Do we know that for sure, or is that just what the media wants us to believe?
I mean, all history with Russell Westbrook suggests it's the case.
Yeah, but it wasn't like Russ ran Harden out of town. Sam Presti did. Like, I don't know. I find that hard to believe. We'll see what happens. Harden obviously seems like he's a little bit difficult to deal with now in his, found superstardom, but we'll see. You have the Clippers who obviously...
Sure.
Added, NBA Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Did they?
Just a tiny tweak. And you obviously still have teams like the Denver Nuggets, who were the 2 seed last year. The Jazz, who've quietly improved with Bogdanovich coming over from Indianapolis. I mean, I don't know why I said Indianapolis.
I liked it. I respect it. The Indianapolis Pacers. I like it.
I'm fine with that. I think the Lakers are really going to struggle, even though they added Anthony Davis, even though they added Danny Green, and obviously you still have LeBron James. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to get home court advantage in a very daunting Western Conference. Now, we've known LeBron's history, and that may not matter when LeBron gets into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter what seed he's in, and it may not make a difference, but I think it's going to be a much tougher road and a much tougher season now when you take Boogie out of the mix.
I just think that saying it's a foregone conclusion that they won't get home court, which basically means finishing in the top 4 in the Western Conference, it's a step too far right now. I see 2 teams who are clearly better than the Los Angeles Lakers in the West. That's the Clippers and the Nuggets. The Lakers fall into a group with the Rockets, with the Trailblazers, with the Jazz from me. And if you were to throw all of those names into a hat, and I think you could justify any order they came out, there's a real reason for excitement in Los Angeles. You talk about, look, Boogie was found money for this Lakers team. He was nothing. He was an afterthought. That's all. This isn't the Boogie Cousins of 2 years ago, averaging 25, 12, and 5-3 while shooting 35% on 6 threes with the Pelicans. The guy who looked primed for just super duper stardom in the NBA. This is a guy who has had 3 catastrophic injuries since then. This is a guy who had to settle for a mid-level exception last year, who had to wait and take scraps at the table this year in free agency. I don't think it means as much as you do. And I'll tell you what, I don't know that this team won't operate better with a pick and pop center, a rim running center, like a guy who will play defense like Martin Gorsat, or actually, I know this is going to be a funny name for you to hear because he played for us so long ago, but I really like what Mo Spates brings to this Lakers team.
I knew you were going to go Mo
He's
Spates.
In good shape. He shoots the 3 pretty well now. I feel like a guy who can stretch the floor with Davis, with LeBron James, and et cetera, is going to be a valuable piece. McGee's fine. McGee's a rim runner. He's a shot blocker. He's just an energy guy. The way this roster is constructed, the injury to Boogie Cousins isn't going to be the reason they don't get a top 4 seed in the West. It's going to be, do LeBron James and Anthony Davis stay healthy? And does Kyle Kuzma take that next step up to being more than just a good offensive player? If Davis and LeBron stay healthy, if they play 65 plus games each, I have a hard time seeing that this team's not the number 3 team in the West.
I secretly wanted you to say Sam Dalembert instead of Maurice Spates.
Yes.
Even though that would be so ridiculous.
Todd McCullough.
Well, speaking of catastrophic injuries, Todd McCullough. Listen, to me, I just think there's too much talent in that Western Conference to lose a guy like Boogie. Obviously, we weren't going to get the Boogie that we saw in New Orleans this year with Golden State. It wasn't going to happen, which probably hurt his chances this year in free agency because, one, you talk about the injury that he suffered in the playoffs, and two, he wasn't asked to do anywhere near as much with that team because it was filled with other guys who were primed and ready and superstars who they didn't need Boogie to be that dominant piece. I think the Lakers needed that a little bit more. Now what we're going to get is like you said, Marcin Gortat, who was playing overseas because he couldn't get along with John Wall. How do you think he's going to deal with LeBron?
John Wall is difficult.
Sure. Oh, so LeBron isn't?
LeBron is the easiest going guy in the world. He's basically just interested in movies now, from what I've heard.
Movies, tacos. I could see your point. You're talking. I mean, reports of Dwight Howard's illustrious return to Los Angeles, retread an unhealthy Joakim Noah. What is this? 2004?
Yeah, it is. And these are all big free agents in like NBA Live 2011. But when we're talking about Howard, if he's legitimately accepted the role of being a rebounder, being a defensive presence, and an energy guy rather than an offensive option, there's value in him there. Like, none of these guys...
Then why does nobody else want him?
Because he's a head case. But none of these guys are superstars. And by the way, Boogie also a head case. None of these guys are superstars, but they can all help this team. I just, when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the rest of it really doesn't matter that much.
Howard didn't work in Los Angeles with a previous Hall of Fame all-timer in the NBA and Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, and maybe the most difficult player to play with in NBA history.
Sure, because he demanded people to actually try.
No, because he was an asshole who held people up to unrealistic standards.
I don't disagree with that. I'm not a Kobe guy. I'm simply saying, like, I think that there's going to be another difficulty. LeBron has been known to throw teammates under the bus.
I don't remember
Not
that.
directly, but indirectly. He will subtweet every single person on the Lakers, and Dwight's going to do something, and then the whole thing's going to come crashing down, and then they will have to get Joakim Noah. They're going to be looking for like Marcus Fizer off the bench somewhere.
Hey,
I
wonder what Bovada has the lines for Mo Spates being the comeback player of the year in the NBA.
I mean, I can only imagine that he's the heavy favorite if he signs with the Lakers.
That's probably true.
Mo Spates.
I like Mo Spates. I really do. I don't get.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Mo Spates. I liked Mo Spates when he played for the Sixers and didn't want to see him go. But it's one of those things. And then, of course, he went on to glory and is an NBA champion.
Yeah, he's a superstar. Absolute superstar. He's that third star the Lakers have been looking for.
They're going to build the big three that nobody else has?
Yeah, they've got LeBron, AD, and Mo Spates. That could work. Look, I know we're obviously we're joking around a lot here about the value of Mo Spates, and both of us, the fact that both of us like him aside, this team is going to play all kinds of weird lineups. You're going to see Davis spend time at the 5. You're going to see LeBron spend time at the 5. You're going to see Kuzma spend time at the 5. I'm not worried about a traditional center in a modern-day NBA.
I still don't like their bench. Their bench also does not help, and losing Cousins hurts that. You obviously with McGee having to get more minutes and whoever you bring in, but you're still looking at a second unit of Rondo, Avery Bradley, KCP, and Jared Dudley.
That's okay. That is an okay backup. I
guess, man. I don't see it.
You have Quinn Cook and Troy Daniels on that third team who are just knockdown three-point shooters. This team is not constructed like last year's Lakers team was. Last year's Lakers team was broken and dysfunctional from the get-go. It was, let's get LeBron and see if he can play with our young guys. Turns out he can't, and that's fine because the young guys didn't fit. Well, they're all gone now except for Kuzma. And this team fits a lot better. Davis can shoot from the outside. Kuzma can shoot from the outside. Green shoots from the outside. Whatever center you bring in is going to be able to shoot from the outside a little bit unless it's Gortat. And Gortat brings other things. No, the interesting thing for this Lakers team in my mind is going to be the experiment of LeBron James at point guard. He has been a de facto point guard in the past, But what we've seen in Philadelphia is that by actually calling a player like that, the point guard, and for Philadelphia it's Ben Simmons, it creates some weird cross matchups and some problems defensively. Who on this team is going to guard quick opposing point guards? I don't see that guy. That's how Kemba gave us 60.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I think Danny Green is an interesting case because a year ago when he was part of the Kawhi blockbuster from San Antonio to the Raptors, my thought was, oh man, the Raptors stole Danny Green. Like, how was he also a part of this? And then I watched Danny Green in the playoffs, and he had as many points as I did in way too many games. It just something feels off with him, and I don't know if it was an injury. I don't know what it is, but if he can't refine that form, you may see Avery Bradley in the starting lineup sooner rather than later. And I don't know if that's a winning combination for the Lakers.
Well, you're not going to, because if nothing else, Danny Green shot 45% on 5.5 threes a game last year. And having that floor spacing is going to be invaluable for this roster. Avery Bradley hasn't been good since he was in Boston. The magic of Brad Stevens propelled him to a level that he was not capable of outside of that system. Danny Green is going to be on the court because Danny Green can shoot the three.
That's fine. The only way the Lakers do this is if they actually give Kostas a real shot out there. let Kostas ball out, put AD at the 5, play Kostas at the 4, and discover the next or the second generation of the Greek freak.
Third generation. You're forgetting about Thanasis.
You're right. My apologies.
And by the way, there is a younger one, Alex Antetokounmpo, who is he's not Giannis, but apparently better than all of the rest. So it'll be interesting. There's also another maker. There's a mature maker in this year, and he is the cousin of one Thon maker.
You can only imagine how many times I lost money on the Dayton Flyers because of Kostas Antetokounmpo. Talk about overestimating a guy's talent, Chris.
Is that true? You put some money. You put some money down on Kostas and the Dayton Flyers.
I mean, I would think that a guy named Antetokounmpo can't be terrible, and they still had Archie Miller. Things went south quickly.
Wait, you wagered money again? If betting was legal in your particular state, you wagered money on the Dayton Flyers.
From game to game, may have taken a dabble or two.
Wait, this is even worse when you say from game to game. This wasn't just a little futures bet before the year. You stuck with it, and you're like, no. Archie and Costas are going to turn this around.
Listen, this is also coming off the year where Dayton was actually good. And they had that weird run in the tournament where they won 1 or 2 games. It was a whole mix up, Chris. We were all lost.
At what point did you just decide that he's not that good? I think he was playing 15 minutes a game.
Yeah, it wasn't great. He did not get a lot of time.
Let's see. What did he average in college?
That's something I realized rather quickly.
Well, was it the 13% 3-point shooting that really drew you to it?
It might have been. Honestly, sometimes, Chris, we've talked about this in the past. Sometimes it's all about feel, and it's all about the hunches that you get. That's where it was at with the Dayton Flyers when they had. Greek Freak version 3.0.
Yeah, okay. Well, 5.2 points per game in 15.1 minutes. Also, Charles Cook on that team. Charles Cook, a fairly decent player. But, that was not a real exciting Dayton roster, and I'm sorry to hear that.
Not great.
That worked out for you. By the way, do you remember, I was genuinely bummed when the Mavericks used the 76ers pick that we traded to them to take Kostas Antetokounmpo. Because I was like, oh, well, man, what if he works out? And we traded him. We traded him to Dallas for the rights to Shake Milton. I think we traded 2 super late picks to move up 4 picks or something like that and get Shake Milton, which is fine. But, it was Kostas and Ray Spalding went to the Mavericks for the rights to Shake Milton.
I'm pretty sure we had a conversation the evening of that draft. And we said, wow, I really like just having the idea of Kostas Antetokounmpo. And 5 minutes later, it was the Sixers have traded him for Shake Milton. And we were like, All right, well, I guess we'll take Shake
All
Milton.
right,
I don't know.
Yeah, he could have been a first-round pick if he didn't get hurt. We can work with this. And then how about the excitement coming into this offseason? Oh, Shake Milton's going to be the starting point guard on the summer league team. He's going to blow up.
Yeah.
He had a great year in the G League. Just played terribly in summer league. But Greg, none of it matters because I watched a video yesterday, and now I'm convinced Ben Simmons is going to be a 70% three-point shooter this year.
Oh, you mean with that still whack form and the fact that he fades away on every shot? I love Sixers fans. Sixers fans are the most delusional people in all of NBA.
They're
fandom.
not. You just say that because you're most exposed to them.
That's okay, fine. In my opinion, from what I've seen over the past 24 hours since this video of Ben Simmons hitting three-pointers has surfaced, I can't believe people believe this stuff. We sat through 4 years or 3 years of Markelle Fultz videos. I've sat through off seasons of Ben Simmons videos.
We've never seen anything like that before, though.
If I don't see, but I've watched him in warm-ups do it. What do we?
Yeah, but never in games.
Done this,
but
he's done it.
You know perfectly well that making shots in a gym by yourself when no one's guarding you is a whole different thing than making a shot with somebody in your face.
You're right. He's playing in the no double teams league. I get it. I see that. It just.
Did you see Devin Booker responded to Gilbert Arenas?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God!
What an unreal world we live in.
I know. Just leave that alone. Just let it be, dude. You were wrong for whining. Who cares? It's basketball. See, people want to win. They want to take advantage of a situation. Saw an opportunity to double, and they doubled you. I'm sorry if that hurt your feelings, Devin.
Do a quick Wikipedia of Gilbert Arenas and that Washington Wizards team that had the plane and then locker room incident, and then just get off Instagram and be like, "You win, Gil.
Yeah.
Agent Zero, I got you, dog."
Oh well. So what we're taking from this second segment here, just to surmise what we've said, to do some nutshelling here at the end. Lakers probably finished with the third best seed in the West. Ben Simmons has a jump shot now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Guys, we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of August, and that means football is here. I wanted to let you know that Yahoo Fantasy has introduced a new fantasy football game called Best Ball that lets you in on the action now. So with Best Ball, you draft your fantasy football team, and that's it. You really don't need to do another thing once you've drafted your team. Each week, the top scoring players at each position on your roster automatically count towards your weekly score. I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, you're going to save a lot of time obsessing over your lineups. Forget about that time commitment with other drafts. There's no waiver wire, there's no trades, no adding or dropping players, no having to make those tough decisions on who to sit or who to start. You get to focus on the best part of fantasy football, the draft. Are you tired of doing mock drafts for your fantasy team and having other players just drop out early or not finish? Well, free Best Ball leagues give you the most accurate ADP or average draft position of players before the season starts. For you lunatics, you wild fantasy men out there who just can't get enough fantasy football but don't really want to manage all of those teams all season, you can draft up to 50 best ball teams. That is more teams that are actually in the NFL. Play for free or play for cash, but most importantly, get to drafting with Yahoo Fantasy Best Ball. Join a league today at yahoo.com/bestball, BESTBALL, coming soon to the Yahoo Fantasy app. All right, Greg, we're back. And look, I cut you off a little bit here. I said some things jokingly at the end of the last segment. I want your honest opinion because I had to end it for effect. What is your honest expectation as we get ready to talk about the United States FIBA World Cup team for Ben Simmons this year in terms of outside shooting? How many attempts per game and what's the percentage?
I would love for him to shoot two to three a game. So let's say 2.5 threes a game. Because they have to make sense. I don't want him to shoot just to shoot.
Agreed.
That's never been my point. But it has to be a threat. And if he could shoot, and I would hope if he could shoot in the 30 to 32% range, that's all we need to create some sort of at least respect for his game from beyond 5 feet.
That's right. That's right where I am for the record. I'm going to say 1.85 attempts per game, and he's going to shoot somewhere between 29 and 31%. And at that point, it's not great, but it's an improvement, and the willingness to actually take the shot means people have to guard you. So, huge step in the right direction.
Yes.
And we shall see. And cut to a year from now, let's hope that we're somewhere close to correct, because going into this year, I know there were prop bets for how many threes Ben was going to take this year, and that was the easiest money in the world. That I think the number was like 70 or something. Yeah, No way in the world. He better shoot 73s next year. But let's talk about this World Cup team. Look, everyone makes fun of this team. Everyone insults the talent level on this team. Everyone says they can't compete. They're scrubs. The stars aren't playing. Whatever. It's not going to matter. Not going to matter even a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit, because the amount of talent on this U.S. team is still so far superior to the next closest roster. And I'm not saying other teams aren't good. You've got Jokic out there. You've got Antetokounmpo out there. But they're so much better from top to bottom than the next closest team. It's not going to matter even a little bit. They're going to win this World Cup. They're going to win it relatively easily, is my guess, because this is a team that actually cares. This is a fun position where, the U.S. media, not just other teams, but the U.S. media has made this team an underdog. And they get to prove that they're still the best team in the world, that they're still the most talented players in the world. Making this team play from an underdog position is the dumbest thing you can do. If we were just to go into this and nobody was talking about it and nobody was saying anything or insulting the talent, maybe the outcome is differently. But they're going to play hard now because they actually care.
I mean, that's all well and good, and caring is fun.
And sharing.
But it's
sharing is caring.
Listen, there's been a lot of Barney recently in my house, so I know all about it.
And Greg does not have kids.
Exactly. It makes it weirder. This team still does nothing for me, and I'm playing right into the narrative that you're speaking of, where we're going to sit here and we're going to doubt them and we're going to doubt them. But when I see a team like Greece that has the guy who was the MVP of the NBA on their roster, along with a couple other guys who we've seen in the NBA before, I find it very hard to count a team like that out. I'm also not going to count out Spain. Spain is always on the international basketball scene. Sure. They are always up there with the U.S. as far as the number one team. You still have guys like Rudy Fernandez who get buckets in the EuroLeague. Rubio still playing for Spain. Marc Gasol, Willy Hernan Gomez. I mean, that's a team full of guys that are NBA talents right now.
And don't forget about Serbia. Serbia and Jokic also talented too.
Absolutely. Honestly, Serbia missing out not having Doncic. If they had him, it might have even been an even bigger threat to the U.S. To me, the underdog story is all well and good, but I don't trust this team. I don't trust them from a talent basis. I don't trust them from a cohesive basis. Now, it's funny because 4 players or 3 players at least are on the Celtics, so you have guys that play with each other all the time. I just don't think it's going to be enough, and I think they're going to falter. I don't think there's enough talent on this team to just say, hey, we're going to steamroll, and it's not really going to be a contest this year.
I see. I really think people are making way too much of this. This team, look, it's great that Antetokounmpo is playing for Greece and that Jokic is playing for Serbia. And you know what? There's an argument to be made that they are the best 2 players in the World Cup this year. And then I believe Gobert's playing for France. So you have good players on other teams. But the roster construction is just completely different. Would we agree that Kemba's probably the best player on the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay. Well, nobody else has a second option like Jason Tatum, or a third option like Donovan Mitchell, or a fourth option like Chris Middleton, or a fifth option like Brooke Lopez or Kyle Kuzma or Miles Turner or whoever. Like, the depth of this U.S. team just so far surpasses any other roster. It's not even funny. It's not even comparable. And the thing is, by taking all of the superstars out of it, you're going to play a more team-oriented brand of basketball. And that's exactly the kind of basketball that does well on the international stage. Plus, you have shooters like Joe Harris, who I believe is going to play a much, much, much bigger role than the average fan expects, spacing the floor along, with Lopez, with Middleton, with Tatum and Walker. This is going to be a really good team. Now, I will point out that I don't think there's a chance in the world that Derek White would be on the roster if he did not play for Greg Popovich, but it looks like he is. So there you go.
He's getting that Christian Laettner dream team treatment.
I like Derek White. He's not one of the 12 best players in the United States right now.
Sure, and most of these guys on this list are.
True.
We have a roster filled with a bunch of, are we sure they're good or are we sure they aren't good guys? Harrison Barnes, obviously been in the NBA for a long time. Objectively good, not great.
Good international player. He's a valuable defensive player.
Sure. Jaylen Brown, still a question mark,
agreed.
whether he's as good as the number 3 overall tag is.
Sure.
We talked about Joe Harris. Kuzma, we talked about him from an offensive standpoint. Solid. Who knows what he brings you on defense, especially internationally.
Agreed.
Brooke Lopez, I'll give you objectively good. Middleton, by his contract status now, objectively
Middleton
good.
is very good. I don't want to hear any garbage about Chris Middleton. He's an outstanding basketball player. I'm
not doubting that. I'm simply saying to the lay person, Chris, who doesn't watch Milwaukee's Bucks games.
Oh, you mean the team with
think
the
of Chris
NBA
Middleton.
MVP on it? You're not tuning in for that guy?
Yeah, but that's the guy. That's the guy who's on every highlight, Euro stepping / walking to the basket.
Oh. We can talk about that next week.
I'm gonna continue down, but I saw a video of him with some move in an exhibition game. He clearly takes 3 steps and then takes another one and then dunks it, and the tag is like, "Oh, this should be illegal," which is actually hilarious because what he did on the court was illegal.
He does have freakishly long steps, so I will say
I think it confuses referees. As a referee who finds it hard to ref even little kids' Euro steps,
they're all walks. It's absolutely every single
one. Exactly. I think they all are in the NBA too. All right, we'll keep going. Your boy Donovan, the Spider Mitchell.
Spider.
We're not sure if he's actually good. Utah Jazz fans tell me
he is actually good. We don't know that he's actually a superstar, but he's good.
Okay, all right. I will give you that. Mason Plumlee, please.
I'll give you. I concede that point. That's perplexing.
Marcus Smart, defensively,
that's
solid.
What he's there for.
He's definitely a guy who I was much higher on, and honestly, if he didn't play for the Celtics, I probably would be higher on him. I loved him coming out of Oklahoma State, but I'm not necessarily sure. Tatum, what Tatum are you getting? Are you getting first-year Jason Tatum, or are you getting second-year Jason Tatum?
I mean, second-year Jason Tatum was still a very good basketball player. A 21-year-old scores 15 points a game and shoots 37% on 4 threes a game. That's perfectly fine. 85% from the line. Tatum's a good player. I think he was given too much credit too early because of that playoff series, but Tatum's a good player.
If Team USA does fail, though, what teammate do the young Celtics guys blame on the team?
Jaylen Brown's expendable.
Oh, that's who they're going to blame.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown's
and
expendable.
then obviously you get to Kemba, who we said is the best player, and then Derek White. I just don't. The team does not give me any. There's no oomph there. It's like, all right, cool. Even the team that failed to win the gold, that had Iverson and Carmelo, and that team at least had like names. Garnett was on that team. Like there was guys on that team. This team has no guys. I got no Dukes in this situation. I don't know.
You do. You just don't have guys that have got. Look, if Kemba Walker and Chris Middleton played on bigger teams and on more nationally recognized teams that were on TV more, both of them would be considered uber stars in the NBA. If Kemba was a
consider
Laker,
Kemba an uber star, and he played for Charlotte.
Well, you are the exception to the rule. I don't think the average fan realizes how good Kemba Walker is. Kemba Walker is outstanding. Kemba Walker is an incredible basketball player. So is Chris Middleton. If Middleton was a Laker or, I don't know who else played in a bigger, if he was a Clipper even, or a Knick or somewhere where he was going to be on TV all the time, he would be considered a superstar because he's that good. He's that versatile. He is that impactful. And look, I had issues with Donovan Mitchell because of my loyalties to Ben Simmons as a 76ers fan. But and I don't want to go too hyperbolic here, but the similarities between Donovan Mitchell and a young Dwayne Wade are eerie.
Oh, all right. Okay. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I know you probably have stats and or videos that you can show.
You don't, but you don't care for all that stuff. It's more of a feel thing. And I feel like they're not the same.
Listen, I had a feeling back when Kemba Walker was at UConn that they were going to win the national title and I was going to win an NCAA bracket. And I did. So it's all about feel, Chris. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that same feel got you Dayton last year. So my fear is your feel might be broken.
It might be. No, listen, a lot of the Donovan Mitchell hate is because of the Ben Simmons rivalry. That wasn't really a rivalry and still isn't really a rivalry. I think Jazz fans sort of give him a little more credit than that he needs. When you have games where you have like 34 points on like 75 shots, it's weird to me to be like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the most efficient player in the NBA, but he gets you 24 a night on 43% shooting. Not horrible for a guard. He's, and those numbers are only going to go up. Good from the foul line, plays defense. Donovan Mitchell's a good. I know I'm sort of defaulting to saying blank is a good basketball player, but Donovan Mitchell falls into that group. He's a good basketball player, and he's going to be a very, very good basketball player. He'll be an all-star a handful of times. Mitchell's going to be one of the top, 20 players in the league, 2-3 years from now. He's a good basketball player. There's nothing wrong with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's more the always going to hate him based off of him being an idiot and wearing stupid sweatshirts.
Does that go away if he's not on the Jazz anymore? Do you sort of have that barrier in between that allows you to like him? Because I was wondering the same thing today about Ezekiel Elliott. If he were to be traded, I was looking at the trades for Zeke, what made sense, and the Colts came up, and I was like, that's interesting. If Zeke was a Colt, I think I could root for him.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely
does.
I
hate it. I hate him right now.
I've done that with players before where they're on rival teams and then they go, even if it's not to my team, but they go elsewhere, I can then find enjoyment in watching them play. Yeah. It's weird how that works. And Donovan Mitchell from the Jazz going somewhere else, I probably would change a little bit on him. We were talking about we have a fantasy draft coming up for the NFL on Saturday, a little early, but we have guys coming in from out of town, and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, should you draft Zeke? Should you not? Should you draft Melvin Gordon? Those kind of conversations were happening, and I said flat out, like, I don't care if Zeke was around in like the third round. I can't take him and have him be a focal point of my team, knowing that 2 times a year I'm going to have to cheer against my team partially. Like I can't do that. That's one of the biggest hang-ups for me in fantasy, which is funny because I'm in 4 different leagues for the second straight year.
I'm in 0 for the second straight year and very happy with it.
Which is too many. 4 is too many.
I found a way to enjoy football a lot more by taking myself out of the situation that you just talked about.
Well, so I'm
like, I really want the Eagles to win, but hey, Saquon got 3 touchdowns, so at least I did well.
I had an uncle. I still have an uncle, but he was in a fantasy football league for a long time, and even before like it was on the internet, they used to do it, and they took it really seriously for a very long time. And then one year they just stopped, and he's like, I like football so much more now. Yeah. And I don't hate that idea, but the gambler in me is like, listen, Dayton might be good, so why not throw all the money around in fantasy football and see what you can come up with?
Well, look, I don't think there's a better place for us to stop, for me to cement my victory, than you reiterating your weird infatuation with the Dayton Flyers. So it seems
Greece versus Spain in the title game, baby.
Oh my God,
it's happening.
We'll see.
The bronze Celtics.
Yes, it will be very.
The Boston Bronze.
I don't even have words at this point. Here's the advice I'm going to leave all of you guys with, who have stuck with us to the 51-minute mark. Get off Facebook, stop playing fantasy football, and your lives will be exponentially better. For Greg Crone, I'm Chris Warwardell. That's the show for this week. We'll see you next week.